Thank you again, Diana. Now, it gives me great pleasure indeed to invite to the podium a great friend of ours and Director of the United Nations Institute for Water, Environment and Health, Dr. Kaveh Madani. Dear Kaveh, welcome.
Thank you. If you don't mind, please give me 5 minutes notice. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the very kind invitation. Again, congratulations to you. I think it is really exciting to see how this initiative is now getting to this stage. We have seen it since the UN Water Conference and the different events. And it's being shaped, and it's creating an excuse for us within the UN system to also share and do more together. So congratulations to UNITAR, congratulations to York University for being the agent of a good change and a positive change in this. We heard from our colleague from UNEP that so we got to share more and more and do more and more together. I'm afraid there is nothing new, like all the ugly narratives and the sad narratives within the water sector are repetitive. We have been talking about this forever. We now have another maybe a deadline to again realize that we are not there yet. So that's the 2030s, and the lack of progress on SDG 6 is worrying us. But it's also, I think, this provides us an opportunity to look back and see what's missing and why we're not getting there. So we released the Global Water Security Assessment in 2023, looked at 186 countries to find out where they are in terms of progress toward SDG 6. And first of all, you see more than half of those countries are in the water secure zone. So more than half of the countries, half of the member states are not water secure, and water security has a broad definition. But more than half of the global population dream about clean water and manage essentially drinking water and sanitation. And then so that's an obvious threat to humanity and progress. It's a very great indication of poverty, and with poverty we know that progress cannot be made. So this is part of this story, and sadly we know that more people die because of the lack of clean water, and because of bad, essentially inferior hygiene situation and lack of access to clean sanitation services than disasters. And then, of course, with the wars now, even numbers are no longer having their power, with the number of people being killed, innocent people being killed in wars and conflicts around. But the fact that lack of water is still killing so many people is a big problem. And yet, as the water community, I think we have not been there maybe to highlight these and remind people about this problem. But this is one side of the story, the story of WASH, water, health, and sanitation. And that side of the story, that's the initial progress, initial phase where we connect people to the water grid. But there is another phase after that. 70% of the water in the world is being managed by the farmers. It's in the good hands of the farmers, who mostly are poor in the world. Many of those are subsistence farmers. Water, and the main product of the water sector is food, and food must remain cheap in the world. So for the governments to function, and that means that we would always have issues with asking for more investments upstream and in the water sector. And that problem is very important. More importantly, water is tied to employment. So governments need to create employment and avoid unemployment in many regions of the world. And that's why they continue to mismanage the water to avoid unemployment, food insecurity, and all of those things. And this is a big part, the big water story, that part of the story that we are not looking at. Another thing is we have been obsessed with providing more water and with the supply side, but not with the other side and even the downstream side. What happens to water? When we did this study, we realized, for example, in terms of industrial water and industrial wastewater, we only had like 14 countries being monitored by the UN system, 14 countries in the world. So this means that when it comes to the switch and wastewater, our knowledge is very limited. Of course, the situation is better in the domestic water sector and in some places in the agricultural water sector, but still our knowledge is very limited. And we heard stories about Canada. So even wealthy nations, advanced economies are struggling heavily when it comes to wastewater and that. And that is something that we are still missing. Of course, there is a positive side of this story, and I have to wrap up with the positive story. But we have an unprecedented capacity to collect data, to monitor, to measure, to process, to compute. And this is something we didn't have. We have that capacity to help. So when it comes to the interventions, technological interventions, we have an unprecedented capacity. That's a good plus. But when it comes to understanding context and dealing with the political economy problem, dealing with the mismanagement thing, we still are not there. And there is a caveat here. Yes, we have the power to compute, but we still don't understand the water sector very well. So as we make progress in technological interventions, in data collection, in bringing the data together, we have to also improve our capacity to understand the context. And context is very different from one country to another, from one region within one country to another. And unless we understand that, we see that even in some of the countries where the Greens are in power, the Liberals are in power, those who care maybe traditionally more about the environment and are in power, then the farmers feel that they're left out of the policies related to climate change because we have not understood them properly and we have not made them part of the process. And thinking about all these things, I think we also need to work more on understanding the global south issues and bringing those voices to the table to understand why they are not following the easy prescriptions of the global north scientists. Because I think the failure is on our own side. We did not understand those problems properly. We can, through more, I would say, conversations and communication, develop a better understanding and come up with solutions that are enabling them to actually change the course. Thank you.